How we all doing today? Sat here and saw a few people already here in chat. Hey, Mad Dog. Hey, Down Under. Hey, Howie. Repo, you've been here for a while, giving us our nice little countdown. Saw Havoc in there. Repo, to address your questions, that's what the 1 week and the 1 month were for him finishing before me, because at the rate I'm going and looking ahead in the manual, I think I've got at least another month. But Mad Dog, I told you I'd sit here and have a poll for you this week. There's your poll. We'll sit here and give people some time to hop on in here. We got some news, some updates. Mad Dog, I read saw your little update on your build and everything, the advice about the belts. I was going to be reaching out, so it's nice to get some advice on that beforehand. Let's see here. Oh, hey, the Reverend. How you doing? Let's see here. Havoc, you're going to still working on your decision for your tool head. LTX Designs, how you doing? Let's see. Mad Dog, you think you might buy some new belts and do it again? Yeah, unfortunately, they haven't invented a belt stretcher yet. You have plumbers still looking for the copper stretcher as well, and new mechanics looking for the headlight fluid, so never did find the elbow grease. So, going through, we sat here and got to the point where we put together as much of the gantry as we could last week, but we were missing some parts. So, to reiterate for people, West 3D sat here, and they're the ones that provided the parts for me. Turns out we got the gantries for the Trident and the Voron are almost identical, but the AB idlers are different between the two. The Trident ones have no little teeth guides to keep the belts in place when you clamp them down. So in that meantime, West 3D has fixed that. They've sent out the new parts. You can see we actually now have the little teeth. No, Jeremy and Keela were actually really good about helping me out on this and everything. Thunder Keys was also a big player in it. They did send out some other stuff with the parts. So in addition to a West 3D sticker that I got with the original kit, I now have an East 3D sticker. Ambrosia filament. An armored turtle. Eventually I'm thinking about building one of those. So, and then the one that my partner has claimed, so I'm not going to be able to put this on my sticker board, is this one right here. This 2-step process. Step 1, get. Step 2, good. So my partners claim that, so they are going to have that because while I have a comfy couch, I'd prefer not to sleep on it. So, the other thing, I want to thank Thunder Keys because he sent this out with the parts. We have a nice little fidget toy that he sent out. This is made in the LDO purple and the LDO dark teal. It actually spins pretty smoothly. James, if you pull up Discord, I believe I have a link to the printables page in the private messages to my personal account. But yeah, so the stickers were cool and everything. I've been messing with this fidget toy all day. It is addicting. And James, I think I've annoyed James with it because we were watching a movie. Namora, right, James? Nimona. We were watching that before, and I was just sitting here flicking it back and forth as we're watching. He's just staring at me like, "Are you kidding me?" So, found out me and fidget toys, dangerous things. I make noise. Yep. So we've got all 4. Of the correct parts now. Let me see if I can get this thing to focus. So you can see they all have the teeth guide on them now. So we'll be able to get these together. Take apart these ones, get the proper parts on there. That is thank you, James. James has posted a link to that fidget toy on the printables page. So without further ado, let's start taking apart the old idlers and get that. So what we're going to try to do, we're going to get the old idlers apart. We're going to get the gantry together. So once we get the old idlers apart, we're going to finish getting the gantry together. After we get the gantry together, going through all of these pages, we're going to get our gantry in the frame and the Z-belts belted, and hopefully the ABs as well. Because after that, our next step is we're going to be building tool heads and stuff. And so James has just closed the hole for us. So apparently one person thought it'd take Mad Dog a month to do, and the rest of you thought, hey, you never finished a Voron, which I'm starting to believe is the case, because I haven't even finished building this one, and I'm already looking up, oh, hey, look, I can do this modification. Excuse me. I can do this modification, or, hey, look, I can sit here and get these CNC parts and things like that. The new Vitali rigid metal gantry looks very interesting. So I've been talking with a few people about that, and while it looks like you might lose a little bit in the X, it's just looking like it's going to be a very interesting design. So might want to do something like that. I do have another gift that was sent out. Hey, Shrimp Father, how you doing? But with that one, I'm going to hold off because there's still some stuff that needs to be done on that. Down Under, yes, from what I understand, a lot of mods don't really sit here and affect the performance. A lot of them are aesthetic, but sometimes we do things just to make them look pretty. So let's go ahead and get these taken apart here so we can get the proper ones on. Well, Down Under, I think that's why they say a Voron's never finished, because you always just seem to add scope to the project and not finish it. I know I've been talking with Havoc, and the scope creep is a real thing. You start building one way, and then all of a sudden, oh, hey, I don't like this anymore. We're going to change up the entire project, or we're going to sit here and switch how the Z gantry, the Z motion system is set up. So I'm going to get this thing apart, and of course, I have the strangest feeling that entire bearing stack is just going to fall apart on me, so might as well just let it fall apart and we'll rebuild it. Anyway, because I'm going to have to rebuild it once I pop these apart. Oh, am I getting lucky so far? Okay. I'm gonna make sure I grab the right ones that are keyed together, because on the Voron ones, on the 2.4 ones, there actually are keys, just like on the Trident ones. So while these pieces look the same, they look exactly the same. If you flip them over, I'll sit here and show you. They're keyed different. If you notice, there's actually an indent there, whereas there's a protrusion on this one. Let me see if I can rotate so you guys can see that better. Yeah, so you can see there's a little protrusion on this side, but if you go to this one, that protrusion is gone. Oh, Dave's credit card needs to be chopped up. Sometimes I think my partner thinks the same thing of me, so. Okay, so let me see here. If I get this one in, it's going to go that way. Yep, so I'm just making sure that when I put this one on, I have the bolt going the right way, because they flip them upside down based on which side they're on. So I'm lining up our little tensioning hole, the little notch here where the screw is going to go. Let's see, Thunder Keys. Thunder Keys, it's not that big of a deal, but thank you for getting the parts out and everything. Your fidget toy has driven my partner and James the cameraman crazy. So, but I'm enjoying it. So we're gonna just getting the bearing stack on here, and for those that I haven't seen here before, those that haven't built, all bearing stacks on the Vorons are the same. It's shim or washer, bearing, shim. And now that we have that in there, I won't be able to do it that way because I need to get, I have it on there. I have to take that out, get our top piece on, and drop everything. I will have to get another shim because that fell on the floor and I can't be bothered to look for it right now. Let's see here. Howie, your girlfriend and you have completely separate money and each pay certain bills. You know, sometimes it's nice to just say, to have that separate little allowance that you can each spend. Okay, so we're going to go through here and do this again. Let me move the keyboard out of the way. So we have some more room here and I don't have to worry about dropping it on the keyboard. Thunder Keys, I would actually say that's East 3D. So, you know, the W's crossed out. You added the A. I'm going to call that East 3D. I mean, unless you want to be Patrick and it's always West 3D. RJ, more places like West 3D and all that would be nice around. Give more options. Crud. I am just being Butterfingers today. West 3D is the Temu knockoff. Oh, I would say down under you'd be more familiar with those Temu knockoffs than I would. You're closer. Let's see. A 53-mile detour? Where are you getting a 53-mile detour, RJ? Okay. Give me a second here, guys. I know I'm going to get quiet here for a bit, but I'm just trying to line up. I was trying not to let that happen. Yeah. I did so well last time, and this time it's not being the easiest. Yeah, so Mad Dog, I saw earlier you're saying you're missing some parts in that Seaboard kit. What didn't they send with it that you need? Let's see. And Howie, when you opened your shop in Mississippi, they franchised you South 3D at Howie DeWitt Hobbies. Okay. Give me a second here, guys. I'm going to go quiet here for a bit as I concentrate on not filling this bearing stack all over the place again. We've got that in. The holes, I landed the hole properly. Let's just get this thing tightened. And as I always say, you know, when you're even though we're tightening through this into a metal hex nut, the metal bolt and the metal hex nut are stronger than the plastic in between. So you don't want to crank down on them too much. And if you don't want to make sure that your little idler bearings can still rotate, because if you also squeeze down too much, you can pinch them and then they're not going to rotate. Let's see here. I've worked with 2 of the main US suppliers I know of so far, West 3D and Fabrico, and I've had different experiences with both. Got my next project for after we finish the Voron already planned out, and the kit has already arrived. So after we play around with the Voron for a bit, we can sit here and start messing around with the next part. Let's see here, Mad Dog. That yellow chain mount on top of your tool head rail, PTFE tube, printed parts, and the carriage. So the little chain mount here you're missing, some PTFE tube, and the printed parts for the carriage. Oh, it's small. Oh, are you talking about that small piece that goes behind the carriage that sits here and kind of links them together? Yeah, I thought I was missing that one at first too. When it was packaged, it was actually packaged in the stealth burner kit instead of with the rest of the parts. So I was going crazy thinking I was missing that tiny little piece, which I have. Yeah. This tiny little piece. Let's see here. Down under, you guys don't have any stores that do printed part kits. Down under, that is awesome that you have a community that can just do that, you know. I know there's quite a bit of that community in the Voron space and everything. And everything I've seen in the community so far, everyone's always willing to help out. I know that I have certain people that, you know, when I first started talking about doing this stream thing and was working on my Ender, wanted to send me parts and everything, and you know, I was just being a private person, don't want to give my information out. Hey Killa, how you doing? Let's see here. Caught your stream today. The Delta Flyers, they're looking nice. And I love the little shorts that you're doing with the advice that's being given. I always love that kind of content because, you know, there's a lot of people that'll go through these things and show like, oh look, we built these things, but don't give those little tips and everything I've seen. So just taking that little bit of extra time to make those shorts, going over those things that you and Steve have been discussing on the stream about little tips. Keep it up. They're very helpful and they're very useful, and I've actually been enjoying them. For those of you that haven't seen them, head on, you know, once the stream's done, head on over to Killa's channel. They're short little clips where just little tips and tricks that things you might not have thought of on to make assembling a printer easier. The one I love, the one about the getting the heat set inserts in when you couldn't quite reach it, even with like a 90 degree heat set adapter, and using that bolt to pull through and just using a bigger soldering tip to heat up everything. That's actually a very clever method. Okay, this is where I remember watching a while ago. It was either Steve or Nero. They had recommended getting like the little dowels, because you can keep those in place as you're getting these bearing stacks in, and they just follow through with your bolt, and the bolt will push out the dowel, and you don't have to worry about everything falling apart as you're doing it. I wish I had spare dowels, metal dowels, but I am still new to this, so I don't have that collection of spare parts yet. Oh, the Steve Ranch channel LTX. Yeah, that was a nice little discussion today. Getting some insight into Steve's mind would be a fun thing, and you know, Killa, it's always interesting to hear what's on your mind, because you have a very interesting perspective, being with your job and being very creative. I love your color choices. Hey Projects, how you doing? All right, so we've almost got our ABI. Yep, so we've got those together. So now that we've got these together, we have the right ones, we can actually get this gantry together now. Oh, Steve Projects, yeah, there was a nice rant of Steve's in Killa's stream today, so go back and watch it. It was actually quite entertaining. So I'm just getting down here through the manual, past what we've done already. We need to get to the point where these, okay. So with these, we are going to need the Mad Dog. I sat here and pretty much kept them as loose as they would go, so that way once I get the belts in, I can tighten them. If it calls for something else during the manual, I'll do that, but you know, that seemed like, from what I've been seeing, it's a good way to do it, because if you have them tightened all the way and loosen them, you can always pull the belt tighter. Not quite sure if I even know what I mean, but yeah, if anybody's got a timestamp on that and can list it for us, I don't mind you listing a timestamp. Oh, the little orange part here, well, with the bolt in there, it doesn't really move too freely, but yeah, I can kind of slide it back and forth. It's a bit stiff, but not like, hey, I'm really having to force it to get it to move. So we are going to need our clamps, because these are going to go on top of one of these. Let's see here. So RJ, my favorite part of the build so far has honestly been, you know, just hanging out with you guys and talking and sharing stuff. So, you know, I know that sounds like corny, but it's actually been quite enjoyable. It's been a new experience for me, so, and it's been kept me entertained. It's not just a, hey, you're digging down and doing this. It's, hey, I can do this, and if I get to a point where it's, you know, oh, I need my eyes to take a break, you know, I have you guys there. I can look up and talk to you guys if I need a break from something. Speaking of which, got to get my Mountain Dew. Went with a bigger one today. This one is a 1.25 liter bottle that I've been working on all day. RJ, I don't know how much of Penguin would show up in those transcripts. Okay, so when we did these last time, I measured the 20. It wants you to put this linear rail 25 millimeters from one end, and I did that on this side, and I could remember that because that's the side that I had to skip to make it so that they were fairly even throughout. So that's the side that I'm actually going to put my AB motor on. So this side is the one that we're going to be putting our idlers on. So what it wants, we're going to go down like so. And then this is going to slide on. Now the big thing that they stress here is this is a flush mount. So when you get this thing on, you want this edge right here where my finger is to be flush with the edge of the extrusion. And I'm going to try something I haven't seen before on a way to do that. Doesn't mean it hasn't been done before. I just, in all the tutorial videos and how-to videos, I have not seen anyone do this before. So we'll see how it goes. Though, did I put... No, this is... Okay, so that one's going to go... Now, the other thing you have to be careful on these that I just noticed, one side of these AB idlers, you have two M5 holes. The other side is an M5 and an M3. And if you look on our little Y-axis arms, two M5s on this side and an M5 and an M3 on this side. So you want to make sure that that M5, M3 is facing down when you put this on. I'm just going to get these roll-ins kind of lined up with the holes, make my life a bit easier. We're going to do that on both sides here. So that way, once I get them on, hopefully the screws will line up. We're just going to slide this on and get it nice and flush. And the thing I want to try, because I tested it out somewhat with the backside of the gantry, is I have this nice quartz slab here that it has a nice known flat surface. Now, I know printed parts, you can't always guarantee that they're going to be flat, but the end of the extrusion I know is. So I'm going to actually try and get this on here and push it down and make sure that I'm flat on the end of the extrusion. And that should, yep, that got me nice and flush. So if you do have a nice little quartz slab or something of that nature, that you know it's a pretty flat surface, use that. And this is, let me get you some dimensions on here. It's about a 3 centimeter deep or thick piece of quartz, and that is actually has more than enough height that you can actually fit upright the extrusion, and the idler will not hit my table. So that's a nice little way to sit here and get that flush for yourself. Hey John, how you doing? So then what we need here is we need our little belt gripper. That's what I'm going to call it, because that's honestly what it's doing. It's clamping down on the belts. Now there is on these, one side has a little notch taken out. So when you put them on here, your belt is going to be coming from this side. You want to make sure that that notch is on the side facing away from the idler. Let's see here, Mad Dog. Make sure equal distance from the front to the back of the Y-axis rails when attached. Mad Dog, don't know if I'm quite get what you're going on there, but we'll see when I get to there if I can figure out that equal distance thing. So on these, they're M5s by 16s. Howie, that was still I still love your little advice of, hey, when you're going through, making sure. So measuring side to side, you should have about, oh, there you go. There was James waving to you guys. Yeah, he's a bit camera shy. He doesn't want to be the face. So we let him be behind the camera, and he still gets to participate. If you ever see the channel talking with you guys, that's actually James sitting here chatting, because he actually has access to the chat. I don't have that over here. Now these are, it does say info. I'm a dum-dum. I'm a dum-dum. Oh, thanks, James. Yeah, I just go on all about making sure that this is the right orientation. And of course, what don't I do? I don't put it in as I'm screwing things down. Yeah. James is just a bit, yeah. He wanted me to reiterate. It's not about camera shy. He's just a very private person. How will you have a face made for radio? Oh no, that's what he just posted, but yeah, that's it. Oh yeah. James wants to say, hey, those are your words, not ours. Thunder keys, if I can share those, I will do that next stream, because I actually, to make sure that I wouldn't accidentally show it, I left that one at home. So, you know, just like how James is a very private person, when I get told that, you know, hey, this thing's not quite ready for public viewing, I'll respect that. All right, so we have this in here, and again, while we're going into roll-ins, plastic's in the middle, so you don't need to go too tight on these, just enough to really get them on there. And yep, right here on the James, if you can flip it, show the manual nice and computer, you can see it actually calls out, be aware of that notch orientation when you're putting this together. And here's where it's saying, be aware, make sure that you're doing a flush install. And you can see here on the image, the notch that's on the little hold down is away from the bigger part of the idler. So now that we've got the one done, let's get a second one done. We're going to do the same thing. Kind of line up, get a general lineup for our roll-ins. And once we got that general lineup, I'm going to make sure that I do in fact have this oriented the right way. And I'm going to try the same thing again. Let's see if second time's a charm. I can definitely say this method is working. So I know not everyone has the luxury of having a nice quartz slab or something like that. You know, they are fairly easy to get, but not everyone can get their hands on it. But if you do have the luxury, it makes it nice and easy to get these things flush. We're going to take our little hold down, put it there again, this time with the notch facing this way, away from the big side. I actually got told the same thing by one of my clients for work. They actually asked if I was a professional singer at one point, and I used to actually be a karaoke jockey. And so it kind of shocked me that someone could tell just by like the timbre in a voice that someone used to sing. Captain Kern has a perfect radio voice. He does have a pretty soothing voice. Let's see here. Okay, so we've got these again on there. Tighten down. That's pretty. Those are holding pretty flat, flush. So we now have our AB idlers installed. Karaoke jockey? Yeah, I mean, you have a DJ for people that play music. The people that actually run karaoke setups, they're actually called karaoke jockeys. A little bit of trivia. I didn't know it until I got into the business. Howie, yeah, those radio voices are pretty good for calling bingo. Yeah, projects I actually sat here and back in the early 2010s actually tried out for American Idol. The big thing with American Idol when you try out for that is like when I went, you were in a giant arena, so there were thousands of people there. You get like 1 minute to sit here and make the judges think that you would be good on camera. So, you know, there were some people that, when I say their voices were terrible, I have heard fingernails on chalkboard that had more musical tone than they did, but they do something stupid like the Running Man. And of course, they're willing to embarrass themselves. Cool, you get to go on through. And that's where you get a lot of those, when you would watch things like American Idol, those really bad singers that you're like, how did they get in front of the judges? It's because they would be willing to do something like that. Yeah, Killa, the days of DJs actually spinning records nowadays is making a little bit of a comeback. They're, you know, the whole vinyl coming back in thing is a thing, but you don't see it as often anymore. Nowadays, it's more of those digital ones that have the fake turntable that gives somewhat a facsimile of it, but not quite the same as the real thing. Hey Mike, how you doing? Yeah, projects, I haven't been to a club in so long. I don't even know what I would do in one anymore. Those days are definitely behind me. Yeah, so last time I went to one was for James's 21st birthday, where we sat here and tried to get him completely plastered, and he took the fun out of it and drank responsibly. He wasn't even driving that night. I'm just gonna call you Lunch because I don't know how to pronounce the first name of that. But how you doing? So Lunch, it's kind of a bit of both. It's a Voron printer, which there is no like big like thing like Creality or Bamboo of them, but they're fairly well known. But they don't come pre-assembled. You can buy kits and things like that, or you could even self-source them yourself. That's one of the things that's big about that Voron's big for, is they want to make sure that all the parts that are needed to make a Voron can be easily obtained. So because of that, you can self-source, or you can do like I did. This is actually a kit from LDO that has all the parts already sourced for you and put together, and then you go through and assemble it yourself. But the advantage of that is you really learn how the printer works. You sit here and learn the kinematics, you know, what's needed if something goes wrong. Like, you know, by doing these rails, you know, I sat here and learned, you know, how the rails feel when they're on there. So I'll know if they ever start sticking or something like that, I've got a baseline for how it feels without anything on it. Then if I sit here and want to change out print heads, I'm not limited to just, you know, hey, this one will, you know, this company has locked down their system so that it'll only use this particular print head. I can sit here and be like, hey, this thing came with a stealth burner. You know, one of the mods I'm thinking about doing, I might be changing this out to a dragon burner or something. I haven't seen his name here yet, but I know Tom here, who goes by his company name Cybertech, has a tool head that he's made that sits here and takes the concept where you have to pretty much disassemble your entire hot end just to get, or entire tool head just to get the hot end out, where it can be taken out with 2 screws. So yeah, it is Lunch. It is probably the the standard for open source, even to the point where if you've ever seen the Sovol SV08, it is based off of this printer. Yeah, Mike, the last car I think I had that had a CD player in it was my 2007 Toyota Camry. That one had a 5-disc CD changer in the thing. That was nice. All right, so our next thing to do is we're going to take our idlers. And then, since I have these upside down, the Y rails are going to be facing up. And they're going to go in here. Do make sure that as you're doing this, as you can get some of this out of the way so you can see, you want to make sure your belt path can come here, because the belts are going to come along the inside of the rail. So if you were to flip this, say, to the other side, your belts are going to come here, and you have no... Oh, get that on screen. Your belts will come up here, and it has no idler to wrap around. So do be, you know, it seems like it's a very obvious thing, but do make sure that as you're doing this, you're paying attention to little things like that. So before I start putting this in, I'm just going to make sure that our little roll-ins are lined up, especially this time since I have to do those M3s. Those M3s are going to be even more of a pain in the butt to get lined up after the fact. We got that there. We've got that one there. Rotate. Need must have bigger desk. And that's saying something because I've got a huge desk here. So need must have bigger work area. Let's say that, because the camera only gives me so much work area. Okay. So we'll slide this in. I'm going to do the same thing. Make sure that we're nice and flush. And I'm just going to do one side at a time. That way I can take and put our clamps on this one. Again, the clamp is going to face to the outside, so we need our M5s by 16s again. To launch the Bamboos, they are they're very good printers. They're very beginner friendly. They're easy to use. They're locked. There are some things that are locked down about them, but they're simple. If you're just looking for something that, you know, you just kind of throw something at, it works and you can print. James and I actually have an acquaintance that just got into 3D printing himself, and he got himself an A1, and he's printing miniatures on it, and it's been doing great for him. Was it the mini that he got? Yeah, so it was an A1 mini that he got. And he's been loving it. He actually went out and bought a 0.2 nozzle because he had a gift card to a place, and that place didn't sell resin printers. And so, while I'm a big believer, you know, hey, you're doing miniatures, get yourself a resin printer. An FDM printer can make miniatures. And of course, when you're not working with resin, you don't have to worry about toxic stuff. If you want to see some horror pictures, look up 3D resin burns. They can get nasty. The wheels in the bus go bump, bump, bump. Fisher Price rockin' record player. Oh, I remember those little Fisher Price with the little plastic records. Hey, Icon, you know, no need to apologize for being late. You're here and you get to enjoy the stream. So, you know, I don't want to, you know, I enjoy having everyone here. It sits here and makes these things very enjoyable. But, you know, I don't want people to feel like they're obligated to come. I don't want you to come because, hey, you're enjoying the content. Because once you start feeling like it's an obligation, that just doesn't become enjoyable anymore, and then you're miserable. So I want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you for coming on out and spending time with me. I could say I'm definitely going to look forward to having you all here when I start doing the Clipper, because it'll be while I've done things like building frames and stuff like that from a young age, from starting with the Rector sets and Lego and stuff like that. When I get into the Clipper stuff, it'll be my first time doing that. And it sounds like it's going to be a nightmare. You know, I'm very familiar with Linux, but it still sounds like, when talking to people like Havoc and Icon and RJ and everything outside of stream, Clipper sounds like it can be a nightmare to work with. Oh, projects. I would say that. RJ, I know you said you were in a car you were driving earlier. I didn't know that's where you were driving. Killa, thanks. I'm probably going to need some help with it, because I've sat here and been doing some research on it, you know, going CAN bus or USB. I think I've finally decided, you know, while CAN bus, you know, once you get it working, it sounds like it's very stable. USB just sounds simple, so I'm probably going to be going that method. I'm actually going to be bringing out a poll next stream for you guys, because even though it's my first Clipper install, there might be an option to torture me, to torture myself on stream. So next week's poll won't be about a person like it's been these last two. It'll actually be for future content on this particular printer on this channel when it comes to building. So, all right, looks like we've got those in. So, oh, did Tom sneak in here? I haven't seen Tom yet, Repo. Are you trolling me, Repo? Okay, so we're just going to take this and put it up against our edge. I'm going to grab our little piece again, and again, this is the outside of our rail. That's where our little notch is going to paste, towards the outside of the rail. I know sometimes me mentioning these things over and over can sound repetitive, but I'm to some of you, because I know some of you have been building quite a few things and have quite a few printers under your belts, but I don't want this just to be for established people in the community. I want this to be for, you know, people like Lunch that just came in who are thinking about getting into the hobby, that they can see, you know, learn some tips and tricks from that, and see that you don't need to be afraid of doing stuff, because, you know, this is my first printer and I just go right into it. Okay, that time I've got to loosen that one up. That one did not quite go flush. Projects, you're the opposite. You teach nothing. I would say, I don't know. I've learned some pretty good tips and tricks on your channel on how to build, you know, foam flingers. Things to pay attention to when, if I ever sit here and decide to build one. I've also learned some of those foam flingers can really hurt when you get shot with them. Okay, how did that do? Nope, I think I see what's going wrong here. So what I'm doing, I kept pushing this thing down, but I didn't push the motor mount down. So, you know, doesn't matter if your extrusion is flat to the flat surface. If you haven't pushed the motor mount down, that's not going to flush it up. There we go. That's better. Okay. It's starting to look like a gantry. Okay. Oh, so you're saying measure from here to here, Mad Dog? Here. Let's see here. You had to put weaker springs in your build. Your kids were leaving bruises on each other. Yeah, I remember. Okay, so outside to outside, we'll measure back here because that's where it's kind of rigid. And I should have 510 millimeters. Well, if outside to outside is supposed to be 510, I'm at 501. That's 3.5 metric bananas. This is a 350. Yeah, so if I take this, oh, projects, I think I think James just told me that I'm going to be building a foam flinger. Oh, you're talking about the actual outside to outside. Yeah, I've got 501 millimeters. Between the outside of this extrusion and the outside of this extrusion. Slab or crush? Hey, James. Howie's mentioning a slab or a crush blaster is a good one if you want to take a look at those and see if either of those would be something you'd be interested in. So, at the front, there is still a bit of give because I don't have the X in there. So yeah, I can't really guarantee the front yet because there's still a little bit of play in that. I think once I get the X gantry in there, that'll rigid it up a bit and I can move it to the front and make sure it stays spread out, and then I can get a measurement there. This comes the fun part, because as I put this on, this little piece is going to go down below the gantry, so I need to kind of prop this up a bit so I can actually get the screws into here. Killa, thank you for coming in. Good talking to you. Have fun. See, Mike, you're excited to build the 31K blaster. I'm not familiar with that one, but I'll have to look it up and see. Blasters weren't really my thing, so I didn't do too much research into them, but I have a feeling that James is going to do some research and tell me which one I'm building for him. Okay, so yeah, Mad Dog, you're saying make sure the back and the front are the same so that way it fits in the frame properly. Gotcha. Okay. Do I have something that I can use to kind of prop this up a bit? Not quite high enough, but that'll be good enough to get me started. What I need is my M3 by 16 socket head. Oh yeah, Project, you definitely have a lot of videos, and James, there's your homework. You got to go through and watch a lot of Project's videos where he builds those foam flingers, so you can tell me which ones you want built. So what they're saying is on the side that has the cable chain, only 2 screws are going to go in that side. The side that doesn't have the cable chain mount, 4 screws. We're going to go to the side that doesn't have the cable chain mount. And let's just flip this around and we'll hold it up by hand while we're doing this, just so I can get it started here. There we go. That time, now I felt it kind of fall into that hole. Now, something, if you're ever worried about cross-threading like bolts, instead of going like you're tightening it first, go backwards at first. You can kind of feel it slip in. And then once you feel it slip in, you know that you're lined up with those threads and you can tighten down. Repo, you know, it's in the stream world, it's all about getting those views. And you know, I've had So many of those guys have been shouting out my videos. I have no problem with them coming onto my channel and saying, hey, you know, watch these videos that I have, because the more people that watch, the more knowledge that gets shared, and the more we can all enjoy this fun hobby that we do together and all the different aspects of it. For me, the aspects started off as miniature making, and I wanted to go into things like printing Star Wars armor and stuff like that. You know, projects has found fun with making the foam flingers. I know Steve builds, he does his for the RC cars, and building printers in general he just likes. All right, so now that we got the one side in, let's rotate this around. And we'll grab 2 of our screws for this side. And then the 2 screws that you're actually going to put in are the back 2 that are closest to the motor. So these front 2, you're not going to put in at this point. What I found, worked on the other side was just kind of move this back and forth until I kind of felt it sink in, and that can get one lined up. And once one's lined up, if the tolerance on your printed parts are good, your others should line up as well. And the tolerances on this were done very good. So shout out to West 3D and Thunder Keys for the printed parts, because they did really good on them. Mike, you just ordered a clicky clack door. Oh, project, I don't like to hear that a video hurt. You know, I've got back problems, nothing like what you're going through, but I've got back problems, so, you know, protect that back. You've only got one. Okay, and with that, our gantries together. I'm going to move this to the front here. That way this gets a bit rigid. We're going to measure and make sure that the front and the back are well spaced and evenly spaced apart. Yeah, now that I have that, before where I was measuring 501, it's actually evened it out a bit, so we're at 503, it looks like there. And we'll come up here to the front. And we're 503, so we are very square. So, okay. So our next step, let's see here. We're going to print Alex a new spine. It's fine. I mean, at this point, he's kind of got a 3D printed spine at this point. Yeah. Definitely don't use PLA in there, but if I remember correctly, projects, it's Peak that they used. Oh, let's see here. And yeah, Alex or RJ, or just like RJ said, projects, you know, take your time. You know, you're healing. So far, from what I've seen, the community is very understanding, and they'll be there to support you. So if you need to take a bit of extra time, do so. You know, no sense in killing yourself. So yeah. Now, Projects in Dad's Garage is now a 3D printed cyborg. He's got filament inside of him. Okay, so our next step is we are going to grab these little blocks here. Give you a nice little view. There are two different sets of blocks that are going to be holding the gantry onto our Z-rails on it. One has kind of a little sloped curving edge. The other one is almost a cube. We want the ones that are cube because these are the ones that have a hex nut hole. We're going to be putting some hex nuts in there. So with this, we need M5 hex nuts. And we need all 4 of those little pieces. We'll do this right in the middle of our gantry. Oh, projects, don't hurt yourself. I know, like, just based on my frame, I know how heavy these things can be. And I think I was talking to Mad Dog the other day. I think you said yours with the bed in it, Mad Dog, was about 10 kilos. How is it now with the gantry in? Mad Dog, I think a TPU spine might be a bit too flexible. We could turn projects into a contortionist then. Okay. With this, I'm just looking at the projects that I know what those lifting limits can be like. I sat here and hurt my hip at work and I had that lifting limit, and you quickly learn how many things you didn't think about are actually over 5 pounds. There we go. Get Mike to drive back down and move the printer for you. Let's see here. TPU spine be Mr. Fantastic with a flexible man and the flexible man. Stretch Armstrong. There we go. Stretch Armstrong. Let's see here. So with this one, it wants us to go ahead and get our belts. Put on here. But we are... Okay, I've got to get my belts here, and I need to make sure that I'm grabbing the... I believe the 9mm belt, not the 6mm. Lifting balls of purge are 300 to 400 pounds. Havoc, no, we're not. I do have cable chains for this, but I believe it's a single umbilical that's going through it. So I'm going to follow the guide as it is. I might switch to a umbilical, like a single cord umbilical later. But as it is right now, yeah, there are cable chains on this one. RJ, you just need a coffee IV. You can keep your coffee. Give me the Mountain Dew IV. That's what I need. It saved me time. I swear at this point, I think 90% of my blood is Mountain Dew anyway. Yeah, Mike, driving something I don't know why I've never had an issue with. For a lot of people, it's like, oh, it's so far away. It's a 45-minute drive. And I sit here and turn around and it's like, oh, I'm bored today. I'm going to go drive 6 hours and go to Micro Center. get Pepsi to be my first sponsor. Yeah. Hey, Pepsi, I'll show Mountain Dew on every single stream I do. Just supply me for with Mountain Dew for the rest of my life. So yeah, Mad Dog, I think I'm going to take the advice that you had actually put and just do the, cut it in half and then cut it in half again, because this, believe it or not, is a 6-meter belt. So cutting in half and then cutting in half again should sit here and give me plenty of leftover belt for anything I need to do. I'm going to do the method of lining up the teeth and keeping them lined up as I go down to find our halfway point. And we'll just have to remember which one had the leading tooth. So in this case, in case I ask you guys, with the way I have it now, the bottom belt has the leading tooth. Yeah, Projects, I don't think Pepsi sponsors anyone. I mean, they're so against sponsorships. They bought Burger King just to have their products in a fast food restaurant. For those of you that didn't know, that's why Pepsi owns Burger King and Taco Bell. They bought them initially to get their products in front of people in a fast food restaurant, because McDonald's actually had a sole sponsorship with Coke. Oh no. But yeah, originally that was the whole point, was for Pepsi to sell their products. Yeah, RJ, I don't think I can get on the same audience level as Britney, Beyonce, and Pink. I'm not quite out at that point. All right, I'm almost there. I've got my halfway point right there. So it's right between those two. I'm just going to take my razor blade, mark it, go to the edge of my desk, and give it a nice little snip. So then we're just gonna do it again. RJ, I don't think anybody wants to picture me in those outfits. That's not funny material. That's nightmare material. Projects, I'm almost at the same point you are, unless it's someone that, you know, has been in the business for a while. I don't know. Mike, you want to picture me in those outfits? I'm scared. That just sounds scary. Anything to make the chat weird. Next week on Penguin's Drag Show. Singing all the single ladies. if I do that, then oh, so RJ James says if I open the next stream doing all the single ladies, he's gonna quit. I mean, he was reasonably cruel to me this stream, because before the stream we went out and bought eggnog, and I love eggnog. I really do love it. Problem is eggnog doesn't like me and it makes me gassy. And so he told me I'm not allowed to have eggnog before or during the stream. And I'm like, well, I'll just drink it anyway. Well, he has control over the going live button. So he's like, if you do it, I am not clicking that live button. Hey, projects, sometimes it's all about just being comfy. All right, so we got our midpoint there. We have our first two Z belts. Yeah, RJ, I love eggnog. It just doesn't love me. When I was a kid, I was lactose intolerant. I grew out of it for a bit. And now that I'm getting older, it's coming back. So projects, this is going to be my Voron, but it's an LDO kit. So this was not a sponsor thing. I bought the kit myself and everything. Got it from West 3D. Got the functional printed parts from them, because for the price difference between the functional and the cosmetic, I'm like, well, once it functions, I should be able to print my own parts. So what's the point of buying the cosmetic parts? For anyone that's doing this, I will give you a warning, because I found this out afterwards, because I didn't do enough research. The kit comes with a big tree text screen, I believe. The functional parts do not include the screen mount. So Projects West 3D did it. I believe it was Thunder Keys that actually did the prints. I'm not sure though. I know he's the one that got me the corrected parts for the AB idlers. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 belts. So Mad Dog, you got functional printed parts with yours, and it did come with the mount for the screen. There we are. Yeah, it's one of the things I did notice. Like LDO has a different mount than that they've come out with for their kits than the standard one. So I know the printed forward program, the screen mount is not considered a functional part, but because you can No, Repo. This is my Voron. There are many others like it, but this one is mine. Projects, when I went and did my research after I got the wrong parts, there was still a queue. It said that there were 2 people currently waiting in queue, so I don't know how busy it is. Okay. So with this, I need to apparently grab some more parts. Quick, to the bin of parts. It is nice having these things kind of separated into accent colors, main color. So what they did, they separated it into a bag for accent colors. They had a big bag for all the main colors for the main parts. They have a bag for the, I believe, the clockwork and the Wagos. So clockwork and Wagos, a bag for the self burner, and I think it's a bag for all the mounts and everything that go on the den rails. So that was kind of a nice little thing to have them all separated nice and neat like that. Mike, that's not a problem with rebuilding. That's just a problem with building in general. I've sat here and just started this one, and I'm the only reason I'm not getting the project creep is because I know that I've got these streams to do, and if I sit here and start letting project creep get in, I'm never going to get one done, which you guys won't find entertaining. And then, of course, I won't be entertained because I'm not going to have a printer that can do the ABS and all that I want. So but yeah, if you ask RJ, because RJ, Havoc, or Tom, you know, I talk to them outside the stream all the time. I'm always sitting here, oh yeah, I've got all these plans for my next project. Okay. And now comes the fun part. We're gonna flip this back over. Just be very careful of that, especially if this is your only printer. Be very careful as you flip this over of that arm for your cable chain, because if it breaks and you don't have a printer to print a spare, that's going to end up being a nightmare. So with this one, our Z belt actually comes and goes towards the center. And what they're going to have you do, you want to make sure that your teeth are lined up with the teeth. The more you can get in there, the better the grip you can get. With this, it's going to be our little holder. $5 a week is more than your wife gives you. Let's see here, Mad Dog. You don't get Project Sweep because you have a wife. She gives you an allowance. Yeah, I've got a bit more of an allowance than that, but the allowance does sit here and tend to help with the project creep problem. So this is a fun little thing. I have to get these two things together, but this is not a friction fit, so it just kind of rests in there. So what I'm going to recommend, they show it by putting your belts on here, then putting this little accent piece part on, and then putting this top piece on. I'm actually going to keep them kind of sandwiched together and put them on. That way the Z block, as they call it, can hold onto that nut. Howie, I'm actually going to probably be working on looking into a P.O. box tomorrow, believe it or not. We'll see how things go from there, but I'm haven't informed James that's the plan yet, but that's probably the plan here soon, because I have multiple people that have been asking me to get one because they've heard about, oh, hey, you didn't get these parts, I could have gotten out to you in like a week and everything, or like 3 days. I have a wonderful partner, both behind the camera and in life, because I just found out that we're getting Culvers. So, food is good. I am not a skinny man. I enjoy my food. When I'm told I'm getting food, that makes my day even better. I get to hang out with you guys, I get to build a printer, and I get food. I'm a happy guy right now. Let's see here. Now I need an M3 by 30 socket head. So in these little Z blocks, it's an M5 by 30 button head for the bigger hole, and an M3 by 30 socket head for the other hole. And for those of you that haven't done this, I'm going to pull both those out and I'll show you the difference. A button head is called that just because it looks like a button. A socket head is just, honestly, the way I've always thought of it, they call it a socket head because it looks like a socket that goes on a socket wrench, just already attached to a bolt. That's always been the canon in my head as to why it's called that. Mike, I don't know if my weight is stabilized, but I have yet to break 300 pounds. 300 pounds is my artificial point where I sit here and go, okay, it's time to go on a diet. But I have, in all my years of life, I have yet to break that. So if I ever do, that's when we'll have fun. And thankfully, when I did the lineup of those rolling nuts before, they lined up. So when we put those nuts in, they came. Now I haven't worked with belts on these before, but I've worked with it on an ender and stuff like that. Whenever I do like a clamp down, I like to give it a soft little tug, not like a jerk or anything, but like put some pressure on it to make sure that like teeth and stuff like that are holding it down. That way I know I have a stable end for my belt. Mike, I had the same problem, but mine was when I was much younger. I couldn't break 100 pounds until after my freshman year of high school. And then it just skyrocketed. The laptop has the worst audio. Projects, don't you have earbuds? Can't you hook those up to your laptop with Bluetooth? Okay, let's move those over. And now we're going to get our next one. So we have, again, our little clamping piece. And that's going to go up against our little block. And then something I just learned that was actually quite useful is to feed through the M5. That way you can use that as a guide to line up with the M5 hole here when you're putting it on. Now I know that may sound obvious, but in the line of work that I do, you'd be surprised how often the obvious thing is overlooked. I'm also surprised at how many people just can't read instructions that come on a screen. Do you agree with me on that, James? How many people can't read instructions that come on a screen? Yeah. The projects, I do believe you can hook up AirPods to a regular Windows laptop via Bluetooth. It just doesn't do things like volume control and stuff like that on the AirPods as well. Ooh. That caught in there. I'm still waiting for the point where I get to use this LDO driver. So no, it should not. Just pairing your AirPods with another device will not unpair them from any of your other stuff. Okay, so we have, I'm going to give this thing a nice little pressure tug. We've got our first two belts in. I'm going to take and figure out how I'm going to rotate this. Because of that little cable arm, I can only rotate to certain positions and have it up on this little flat quartz countertop. Okay. Let's keep scrolling down because I have a feeling this belt is actually going to go the other way. Nope, it still goes in. That is going to be a tight bend. RJ, I still think you cheat with these number one spots. Let's see here. You're going to need to build some plates for these 2.4s. What kind? Let's see. When you do, Howie, when you redo your kitchen in the spring, all quartz countertops are coming. Yeah. Oh yeah. And if not, if you get it, Howie, even if you get like a new quartz countertop installed, and they cut out a sink, that's literally all this is. It's cut out for a sink. It gives plenty of room unless you want to sit here and build an entire desk out of a quartz countertop. Yeah. So it was fun having to go back and forth with trying to take that number one spot from him on Armor's stream the other day. Project I just started looking into build plates myself, and there are a lot of options on those things. And they get pricey fast. Especially for printers this size. Like if I was looking up, I think the Fabrico Honey Badger Kadavi cooperation that they had. It was like $50 just for a build plate for this thing. One of these days, Armor, I'm going to have that number one spot on Armor's stream. And I'm going to do it without a super chat. Yeah, it's Howie, that's one of those big questions that comes, or those big deciding factors that comes in all the time. It's, do you buy a cheap plate and they're just so cheap that you don't care about replacing them? Or do you buy a good plate that's going to last a lot longer than the cheap plates? Oh, projects I could, knowing how many printers you have, I don't want to see the bill for replacing all the plates you have. That sounds like it would be expensive as hell. Okay, I'm just trying to get this last little block here in. These I can say, these ones over here by the AB motors aren't the most enjoyable to get in. And the sad thing is I talked myself into building a Micron at some point, and if this isn't that fun, I'm just imagining what getting these belts in on a Micron is going to be like. Or I saw the V0 mod for the F0, and I don't know what it is. I have a thing for flying gantries. I like them, but that F0 looks nice. Good lord, with these meaty hooks, that's gonna be a nightmare. Let's see here. Alex talk to new makers. You show a video of you using them, and they give them to you. They don't cheap or expensive. They don't last any longer. All right. Okay, so we have all 4 of our belts in here. Nice. Oh, based on what I see, that should be the right way for all the belts. Let's see here. Hey, Armor, how you doing? We were just talking about you. Okay. It looks like I might have skipped a step at one point. Did I? Nope, haven't skipped that step yet. So, bear with me real quick. I've got to get under this desk and get the frame out, and that's not good. I have a hex nut sitting here, and which one of these did it come from? Got a hex nut there. Got a hex nut there. I've got a hex nut there. I think I see which one it's missing from. I think I'm missing a hex nut there. Let me double check here. What goes into that? An M5x40. Well, if you're not sure, it's there. So Armor build's going pretty good. The roadblock that I had of the wrong parts has been resolved. So we're actually able to get these AB idlers installed now. And that is but I did just find out that my hex nut fell out of this front Z block. So now I get to undo this just to get that hex nut in there. Thankfully, I didn't do that. I discovered that before I got the gantry into the frame. And yep, that's definitely the one that was missing it. Let's see here. Oh, are you getting that? Armor, are you getting that that finals cold? Where all the stress and everything of studying for finals sits here and gets to you and lowers the immune system? Let's see here. Mike, it was nice having you here. You know, if you have any questions or anything, you know, leave a comment in the comment sections. I'm still not getting too many of those yet. So you just got one of those seasonal colds that goes around. Yeah, my partner works with kids, so she brings them home all the time. Okay, now we have all of our hex nuts in here. So, James, if we could switch over to get the computer screen big. Yep. The next step, it's actually doing a thing where it says, hey, take and hold the gantry up by using some zip ties or something of that nature, we're actually going to use the rails themselves, because all the rails came with these little black stoppers, and once we get the carriage above a point, we can put that black stopper in on all 4 points to get them kind of at the same level, and use those stoppers to hold our gantry up as we're getting the belts and everything initially tightened. So bear with me real quick while I sit here, and now I'm gonna go and get our frame from under the desk here, because that was the convenient place to have it so it wouldn't be in the way. And hey, convenient. While I was down there, I found that shim that dropped. Okay. Big old frame. Coming on up. Let's see here. So yeah, armor, I'm doing it as stock as possible. I am taking into account, you know, this is an LDO kit, so I have their little modifications. But other than that, it's a stock LDO kit that I'm doing. I do have plans to do mods in the future, but first I need a printer up and working before I can do that. I'm actually planning on getting, before I start doing any mods to this printer, I'm going to actually sit here and build a second printer. That way I can guarantee that if something goes wrong while I'm modding one, I have a second printer to print out parts, instead of, hey, I printed out all the parts on this, I start modifying it, and now all of a sudden something broke and I have nothing to print the parts on. So shift this thing over. One thing I found convenient was this quartz slab. You know, it's actually being quite convenient. It's thick enough that I could do that little trick to get the idlers and all that flush with the gantries, but it's thin enough that the entire frame with the motors will fit on top. So armor, this is my first big printer. This is my first real true build. I have an FDM printer at home, and then I have an Ender 3, but this is my first one that's going to be truly capable of doing ABS and ASA without without modifications and stuff like that. So what we're going to do here, we're going to take the little carriages here and move them up, and then put our stoppers right below them, so that way, I don't know if you guys can see this, you tilt this way. We're going to take these little black, let me rotate it on its side, there we go. These little black stoppers that are in here, we're going to take and move them up, so that way the carriage can then sit on those instead of having to rely on zip ties and stuff that we're going to cut anyways to get the gantry in. Oh, armor, I definitely know that I'm in for some fun times ahead. I've already started planning out mods and stuff like that. Projects I've been seeing CR10s coming up for sale, and I was debating for the longest time of getting one of those. But I currently have an Ender 3 V2 that's sitting up and kind of working, and then I have frames for 2 Ender 3 V1s that I've kept around for spare parts. And so eventually I'm going to sit here and use those extra frames that are sitting around to possibly build an Ender NG. Or when I went to actually Ender NG's website, you know, Armor, I know you've been really big into the Ender NGs. They have that Ventura, I think it is, or the Venture, that, you know, looks like it might be the next evolution. And I might look into how that project is coming along. One, two, three, four. Fifth hole up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fifth hole up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fifth hole up. All right, so I've got those all. They should be at the same level now. Let's see here, Mad Dog. You followed the guide and used the cable ties. It looked like a much easier way. So I've seen it done both ways, Mad Dog. James, can you switch over to the computer real quick? LDO actually sat here and, like, I've seen multiple people do. I've seen people do it the cable tie way. I've seen people do it this way. LDO actually sits here and recommends for their kit at least to do the stopper method. They actually call that out specifically. What we're going to do here is we need M3 by 20s. Let's see here. You need the project. Yeah, Howie, it's Virtue. Yeah, I believe it's still in beta, so it's a limited group of people that get access to it. But, you know, the Ender NG, you know, I've seen Armor have so much success with that, and it looks like a fun build. Projects just did his marathon building one, and he had some fun with that. He had some setbacks with that, but he also looked like he had fun with it. And so the, you know, having the next iteration of that kit or of that project, you know, it might be something worth. I figured it might be something fun to look into. Okay, so let's see here. It's a bit out of place, like the Z height. Yeah, the Z height is nice on the CR10. All right. Talk to you later if you come back, Mad Dog. If you're not back by the end of the stream, I'll still talk to you later at some point, whether in some chat or another stream or something. Oh, you're getting your custom coating the frame, Howie? Any particular color, or are you just doing like a standard black or something like that? Actually, with an Ender, I'm guessing you're going to something other than black. Now, something to keep an eye out, because like I said, I know a lot of you have built these before, but some people may not have. When you put the Z blocks onto the carriages for your Z rails, they have there's kind of a slight curve to them. Look here, there's kind of a slight curve. Yes. So the side that doesn't have the curve on it, that is your top side. Because if you look at, can't really get this, the underside of those Z blocks that we put on the gantry, they have kind of a bowl side to them. So that will kind of just rest right on top of here. Let's see here. So, you're doing a purple frame. That's how I'm going to want to see pictures of those, of that. That sounds like it's going to be interesting. Okay, so the local 2A store sat here and coded it for you. It's always cool when you can get those local suppliers. I just found out that there's a location by me that can do anodizing, and so one of the things I may do one of these days is build another Voron. I've wanted, since I started looking at Vorons, I've wanted that LDO orange frame, and the place that does this anodizing has a color that's pretty close to it, so I might sit here and have a custom anodized frame made, so that way I can get an orange frame, because those orange frames look nice. Projects, I'm jealous of your orange frame. Let's see here. Yeah, the Joker. Yeah, those purple frames from LDO were. I've seen some of those Joker printers out and about. So the LDO I think they had the Trident frames and the Voron frames in that anodized orange. I believe you have I think it was your Trident that you have in that limited edition orange frame. Yeah. Yeah, I wish I'd been more into the scene in the community back when they were still doing those, because I would love to get an orange frame. They look so nice. So I do have some potential plans of doing like one of the Voron build plans that I'm thinking about doing is a stealth build where literally black rails everything and just get everything blacked out, so it's all that nice black color. I think that'd be an interesting little project. There's absolutely no purpose to doing the stealth out build, but it'd be fun. Hey Clown Hammer, how you doing? We are just having fun getting some Z blocks on, and then we should be getting our gantry on, if all goes as planned and I don't royally screw something up, which is always a possibility. Right, just get kind of going and making sure that these things are fairly evenly tightened and snugged, because especially when you have 4 bolts, you tighten one and you find out you can tighten another one a little bit more. But again, just kind of going like fingertip tight on them, because you know the plastic is between you and the rail, so you don't want to crush that plastic. Now I've got one more. One more block to do. Ah, there it is. It was hiding underneath a screw baggie. You know, I think that stealth build would be fun. You know, another one that'd be expensive but fun, and I know Neokoi is starting to do it, is putting a stealth changer on one of these, and then for each stealth changer head having a box turtle on it. So, you know, getting a 6 tool head stealth changer, each one of those with a 4-color box turtle. It'd be a nightmare to, you know, here I am talking about doing this. I haven't even messed with Clipper yet, and from what I understand, it'd be a nightmare to get set up in Clipper, and it would be expensive. It would have no other purpose than just, hey, it'd be a fun little thing to do. Because, you know, by the time you're doing a print where you need 24 colors, or even, you know, 20 colors with, say, a PLA or PETG to make it so that for your supports, I think you're starting to get to the realm where it's getting kind of nuts on what you're printing. Okay, so I'm gonna rotate this so that the way the back is this side over here. And then we're gonna take our gantry. I'm gonna feed all of our belts so that they sit in the center. And when we put our gantry in, we kind of have to angle it to get it on. This is really fun, isn't it? But once we angle it, we can get it resting. Make sure all of our belts are out of the way. All right, Mad Dog, I think I've finally gotten to that point that you were... Actually, Mad Dog, you had to go step away, but I think I'm finally at that point that you were talking about, because I can see now where this back quarter is sitting right on the Z block on the carriage, but we're not lining up over here. So I'm going to go back through this manual real quick, but what I am also going to do is I have to go to the restroom real quick, so I will be right back. All right, I'm back. Sorry that took longer than expected. Food showed up just as I was doing that, so I scarfed the burger down so I can have more energy. Keep going for you guys. You know, projects. Normally I'd be all for eating, but it was a big burger, so I didn't want to subject you guys to that. But you may get the occasional cheese curd. Cheese curd's good. Cyber or Tom, no, I didn't do eggnog. He still won't let me have it. But it's funny. He'll let me have a milkshake. Okay, now.
You're gonna have egg.
Projects, I saw your little thing, and I guess I missed that in the instructions. I went back through and looked in the thing, and I didn't see anything about not tightening those down. So, unless I missed something somewhere, that might be something to, if anybody has a good contact with the Voron guys, it might be something to pass on to them to mention not to tighten those down so you can adjust them later. Because yeah, I see the flush installs. That's about it. So let me just loosen these up here real quick. Yeah, projects, I might have just missed it. I'll go through and double check. But, you know, I don't really have a good contact or anything like that for anybody with the Voron design team. And projects, you're making James jealous. He wants apple cider now. Okay. I'm just trying to pull this apart so that way the X gantry is fairly evenly split with how far it is out from the two, and that's actually seems to be pretty good. But what I'm going to do, you type into RJ, I'm going to measure back here and see if our distances are the same. That's about 51. And projects, I'll take it, it's supposed to be the same thing with the X gantry because I also have to adjust the front a little bit as well. And right now the Havoc, we're not all building the super monster sized Voron. What are the size of your extrusions on that thing? Okay. I've got those loosened up, so we're going to take our M5 by 40s. And get those, because once I've got those kind of centered, they'll also kind of pull themselves apart to make it so when I tighten down all of our bolts, they are more likely be nice and even. Since we have that nut in there, these should be fairly self-centering. Yeah. Havoc is building a giant Voron. Not quite Venture XL or Phoenix level, but still pretty big in terms of Voron. All right. I'm going to take those out, and I'm going to grab another cheese curd here. Yeah, no. Havoc, we can't all have, you know, Vorons this wide. I'm just working on getting that little, let me slide this forward. Working on trying to center that between these two. Thankfully, they have that little guide to keep that thing on there, and that's actually being a nice little measure for how wide apart those are. We've got those all kind of in there now. Oh, that's running fairly smooth, so I'm going to tighten that up. If I'm not supposed to do this, someone let me know in chat. But I'm going to go ahead and tighten these up. Doesn't. All right. I think we might have lost a few people when we went on break, but those of you that are still here, thank you for staying with us. I don't know. James, how long have we been so far? All right, so 2.5 hours, so getting pretty good on stream. Practicing for maybe one day doing one of RJ's 24-hour streams. I am still planning on if we can get to 100 subs by the end of the year. That means after this stream, we have 2 more streams to hit that I am going to do a giveaway. I'm trying to work out a way that I can do everywhere. Doing some research into that. So if I can, because, I want to include those of you that watch from the UK or Europe or Australia, but we're going to see how the logistics and all of that take, because the one route that I thought, Polymaker has an AI bot that they're using, and it told me I could do one thing, and then I did research and found out that no, the AI bot was wrong. And I actually got kudos from Polymaker for, calling it out on it. So they're at least taking feedback on, hey, cool, you notice this, it was wrong, we're gonna fix that. Hey, James. He caught it. All right, so the good thing is it feels like that is fairly good and close together, because that is running nice and smooth. Now, one downside I will say I'm finding to this little stopper method is the weight of the gantry actually kind of pulls those little stoppers out. So that is something to keep an eye on as you're doing this. Okay. So we now get to sit here and do our belts. RJ, I can't even. I can't even, RJ. So we're going down on our belts, and we're going to the outside of the belt, and we're making sure that our teeth are hitting on that tooth idler that's down there. And then we're coming back on up through. Once we go up, we are going to feed up through this front idler, or up through the front AB idler, and over the tooth pulley that is our Z idler. And then we're going to get this clamped down on here. Now, this next part is going to be the fun part. All right, projects, have a good night. You know, thanks for coming on out. You know, hope you start feeling better, because, you know, we don't want anybody feeling bad and terrible. So hope your recovery goes well. See. Howie, I still have to get a picture of these metric bananas. If I'm correct, they're the CNC metric bananas you were talking about. Okay, so since I know that all of these belts are the same length, I'm not going to cut anything until I've got all the belts in. And then once I get the belts in, I'm going to do the tedious task of counting the teeth that I have over here, so I can make sure that the belts are all the same length. So we're going to do this all over again. I'm going to go down, and something I found that's just been easier is just to pull it all the way through one way. And then when I feed it back up, on the other side I did it from the top down view, but on this side it's just kind of feed it up this way. Make sure that you are, again, getting around the tooth gear that is on your Z drive. Then we're going to feed it up through the AB idler. Over our Z idler. And down. I'm just going to rotate right here. And I'm just taking off these top plates that they just had us put on. So I can get that belt underneath. I have a feeling that the intention was for it to be they're saying make the face cam the big one. I have a feeling the intention of this was for it to be loose enough that without taking this thing off, you could just kind of feed it underneath the thing and pull it tight. Hey, Mad Dog. I figured out the thing that you're talking about measuring the distance between the two things. Yeah, because when I got the gantry in Mad Dog, it did just like you had predicted, and it wasn't quite wide enough. No, believe it or not, it was actually too narrow with the way that I had it. So it fit in the frame fine. It didn't sit on the Z block, so I actually had to loosen up our AB mounts on that back frame to widen it. You never know, RJ. If I sit here and stream for another 8 hours, almost certainly not going to happen. He could, if you went to bed now, he might be able to make it to number 1. I don't think I'm quite at the point, Repo, where I can do a marathon stream yet. All right, I'm just trying to get this thing routed without it being flipped around or anything, because that's the issue I'm having right now. It's almost like it somehow got tangled up. Which it very well could have. Let's see here. Can I get this thing up and through? There we go. That's my thumb. So now we're going up through the little hole. Around the idler. And we're going to undo our little cap thing again. Let's see here. Yeah. But Mad Dog, that's one of the reasons I sit here and try to show everything that happens, even my mistakes, because there's some people that learn better from visually, some people that can just read something and understand. So having this little visual guide to see, oh hey, this is the thing that we need to keep an eye out for. I'm hoping that others can learn from what I did, just like how you were trying to pass on the knowledge to me. So took me getting to that point to really understand what you were talking about, but we got to that point. It was understood, and I could pass that information on to others, and that's how we spread the share and wealth of information. Oh. These cards. Oh yeah, RJ. Jeff is definitely ahead of me on his build. I saw some of his pictures, and I believe last picture I saw, Jeff, you even had your ABs already in, didn't you? Just feeding this down through. And Mad Dog, I don't think you were here when I said it, so I did find one potential downside to the using the stoppers, and that is the weight of the gantry is actually taking my stoppers and putting this. Hey Pat, how you doing? No problem, Pat. Family time is a very important thing. Believe it or not, before the stream today, I sat down with James and my partner, and we watched a movie. Now, I am terrible with names. I've said it before. It is Ramona. Thank you. Namona. It's a Netflix original, but it was a really good movie. Repo, don't tell them that. All right, we're just getting our last belt fed up through. Pulling nice and tight. And there's many things that are important in life. Family time's an important time. Food time's an important time. She's watching the Cowboys game. Who are the Cowboys playing this week? I know you don't care about football, but those feel fairly even tensioned. Cowboys are playing Vikings. Thank you, James. Thank you, Repo. I just saw yours in there. Yeah. I follow it because it just stays. It can be beneficial in my work to stay informed of how the season's going for talking to clients and stuff like that, but haven't really sat down and really followed it for a while. I'm more of a hockey person. Okay. So we have all those in. So then what the next step for this would be is supposedly, do I have them, or are they not considered required? Second, I think they're, nope, they're not accent colors, so they want you to just do a zip tie. So the next thing to do, and the reason, if you look, if you can see, let me see here. Yeah, right here, while we have this little notch here, is you actually take and fold some excess belt up like so, and zip tie it to just the outside belt. That way, if you ever need some extra belt and everything, you can sit here and you have that little bit of extra. But I'm gonna hold off on cutting those, and because I'm gonna try to, I think our next step is the AB mount, is the AB belts. But yeah, so I'll ask those of you that are in here, because I'm trying to be as educational as possible. Would you like, the next step I have to do would be going through, since I know these belts are all the same length, it's going through and counting the teeth that I have, or measuring out, if you want me to do that on stream, or if I should go ahead and do that off stream, and don't bore you guys with me going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So RJ, you couldn't see what I was pointing out. Let me see if I can rotate this. Right here, there's a little notch in these little holders. So the notch is there so that you can fold this back over it, and then put a little zip tie around this back belt, the one that's right here, and this, to give yourself a bit of extra slack. Now, see, RJ, I can't do it like the count because YouTube has ruined the count for me, because of Sesame Street Censored. Yeah, that just ruined the count for me. He's no longer an innocent man. Okay. So, I'm trying to keep I am trying to keep these things at about 3 hours. So we're just about there. How much longer till we hit that mark? 7 minutes. So, we're going to try to get it to about 3 hours. So at this point, instead of, I'm at a pretty nice stopping point, because the next point in the manual is to route those AB belts. And as Mad Dog says, hey, finding out those routes are going to be fun. And of course, doing those routes, it's take the belt, route it through once so I can find out how long the belt is going to be, undo that, find out how long that is, cut it, redo that belt again, and then do the other side. other side of the belt. That way I know that these are exactly the same length. Yep. So, you know, I'm trying to work out things. Like, I don't have like a hey sign off message or anything like that, or really an outro or anything besides my stream ending soon. So, you know, I figured, you know, let's try something new tonight. You know, you guys have any questions, any thoughts, any improvements, or anything that, you know, you feel that I could do on the stream? I am open ears. Or in this case, since I can't hear you, open eyes to see the chat. Okay, so turn up the audio on the starting soon page. Okay, James has that noted. Mad Dog, I'm just kind of trying to end the stream, you know, getting some feedback, seeing how you guys are liking the stream going. Talking about these rails right here. The back of my printer is actually here. It's just the camera's angled. So yeah, this is actually the back rail, Papa. So the rails are actually on this. Oh, on my X gantry. No. We got the front side, and then the rails are actually on the bottom side. I'm not sure which rail, because that's yeah, this is my X gantry rail, and the front is actually towards you guys right now. Mad Dog, you know, that's what I'm trying to do. So I'm glad that, you know, you're appreciating that. You know, Armor, you know, thanks for the compliments and everything. I'm really trying here. RJ, James heard you on the video starting soon page, so we will sit here and work on getting that turned up for next stream. Papa, you know, just saw you pop in the chat here, but welcome. You know, we're going to be ending here soon, but, you know, thanks for coming in. Thanks for subscribing. Everything. We're working on getting to a point where I'm hoping by the end of the year to get to 100 subscribers. And if we can, I'm going to try to do a filament giveaway. Picture of Repo for the background. RJ, I'll have to get with your wife and find the ugliest picture I can of you, and then I'm gonna print it once we get this printer up and going in like mustard yellow and lime green. How's that? How would that work for you for a background picture? I think it'd look awesome. Bad Dog suggestion is to let Repo take number one. To let others take number one besides Repo. All right. I think we're getting ready to hit that 3-hour mark. So, you know, I'll be back here again next week, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You know, we've hit that mark for 5 weeks. I'm planning to keep that going. The only time that we're going to be missing a stream is, I believe, is it second or third week? The second the second week of January on the 11th. We're going to be missing that stream because vacation. So kind of can't do the stream when we're not here to stream. So all right. Well, I will see you all next week and have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you're at.